and my friend were enjoying our weekend in my new house, which my mom and dad told me was my great-grandmother's house. It was an awesome house which reminded me of houses you'd see in those cool mystery movies, big and mysterious. But since we moved in, which was just over a month ago, my mom and dad told me not to go into a certain room downstairs. The door was locked, but I knew my dad kept the key in his drawer, as I saw him put it there last week. We entered the room and nothing looked out of place. It was just an empty room apart from a chair and a closet with stuffed birds on top of it. I then stood on the chair and picked up one of the birds. Suddenly, a woman who we never laid eyes on before started shouting at us. I wondered who was this crazy woman and what was she doing in our house. We both ran out of the room and locked the door, and I rang my dad right away, explaining what had just happened. He got mad at me when he came home, saying he told us to not ever go into that room. Then he asked me what the lady looked like. When I explained to him, me and my friend felt shivers up our spine when he had said we just described his great-grandmother. A few minutes later, he showed us an old black and white photograph of her. This woman was dead for over 50 years. The next day in school, we were in nature class, and my teacher said, "Well, class, today I have a very special guest to tell us all about birds." Me and my friend felt like we couldn't move with fear when we saw the lady who entered the room was my great-grandmother. Suddenly, everyone else in the class seemed to vanish into thin air, and it was just me and my friend and my great-grandmother. The classroom window smashed and loads of birds started flying around the room. Me and my friend screamed and ran home. When I got home and explained what happened in school, things got even weirder when my dad told us today was Saturday and there was no school. He then showed me a journal he had kept from my great-grandmother. It said, "My father was arguing with my mother again, and I am crying now because he shot my pet birds. The only thing I had to keep me sane in this crazy house." I then suddenly felt sorry for my great-grandmother and realised she wasn't dangerous after all. She was just a lost soul in this world that got angry at anyone interfering with the birds in her room. So now I am not afraid of my great-grandmother. I look at her stuffed birds and pray that in the other world she will soon find peace. And now I don't look at her as a crazy woman. I look at her as what I call her, the bird lady. My friend and I always used to walk through a wonderful spacious park when we were younger. It was full of tall trees and it was very nicely maintained. In this large park there was an abandoned mansion. I can't really say how long it had been there, but on that day the front door of the mansion was wide open. The two of us decided to check out what was inside the place. As we inched through the door, the very first thing we noticed was that the mansion's floor was littered with crumpled up pieces of paper. We looked at each other and observed that there was no furniture, nothing except for those wrinkled balls of paper. The mansion had 6 rooms on its main floor, and every room we entered bore more and more scrunched up pieces of paper. We decided to open up one of the paper balls to see what was inside. Our curiosity got the better of us. I picked up a single wrinkled piece, and as my friend picked up another, I unfolded my paper, smoothing out its spins and dents. At that moment, it was almost as if a piece of a rainbow emerged before our eyes, and I was suddenly standing next to a large window in one of the upstairs rooms of the house. I was looking outside into the large park when I looked down at the piece of paper I held. It read, "Look outside the large window that oversees the park in the upstairs parlour." I dropped the piece of paper and it fluttered gracefully to the ground. Meanwhile, I stared at my open hands in a bout of horror. Dazed and utterly perplexed, I found my way downstairs and met up with my friend. He was in the kitchen, sitting at a round table that hadn't been there before. Where did that come from? I wondered. My friend stared at his opened paper and reread the words several times before he looked at me and turned the page my way. It said, "Go to the kitchen and sit at the round table." We stared at each other for a few moments, vaguely afraid, but then we began to chuckle. Within seconds, we were laughing our heads off, marvelling at our newfound game. We could hardly believe what had happened, but being young as we were, the mystery was endlessly exciting. We decided again to open up another scrunched piece of paper. As we opened up the crumpled papers on the floor, we experienced the same sudden flash of rainbow colours. But this time I ended lying down in the field behind the mansion. When I peered onto the paper in my right hand, it read, "Lie down in the field behind the mansion." I giggled uncontrollably. After a few minutes of running around the house, I found my friend collecting multiple balls of paper in his arms, eager to experience more of these strange, exciting phenomena. We both got the gist of what was happening at this point. We had no idea as to how it was possible, but we decided to have more fun with it. The supernatural always had a way of captivating our hearts. After a few more run-throughs with these strange mini teleportation devices, I began to feel apprehensive. I wondered if at one point I would be placed somewhere I didn't want to be, or I'd be made to do something that I didn't enjoy. We continued though. Minute after minute, we unfolded many papers and travelled through bedrooms, closets, trees. But then, after having been on the roof of the mansion, I stood before my friend, dead on the living room floor. I didn't scream. I couldn't murder him. I read on my crumpled page as I felt a surge of vomit and bile rising into my throat. Nothing came out, but the sickness in my throat spread to my stomach, my head, and my heart. I didn't know what to do at this point. I began to scream and shout, praying to God for this to be a nightmare. I wanted it to go away. I wanted to rewind our day and be outside again, together walking underneath the trees. I willed myself to be calm, and I hesitantly unfolded another paper in the hopes that the problem would correct itself. Once again, I saw the colours of the rainbow, and I found myself standing behind a tree several meters away from the house. I could clearly see the front door within a few instants. I saw both myself and my friend walk through that door. I began to wonder if I had died or if I was having an out-of-body experience. I looked at the sheet in my hand, and the only words scrawled upon it were, "Time will repeat itself, and a paradox will take place, and it will be allowed." That gave me an idea. In my pocket remained the paper that made me kill my friend. Without looking at it, I crumpled it back up. Quietly, I followed my other self, who had separated from my friend, as he explored the rooms of the house. As I crept behind him, he turned around very suddenly. Before he could utter a syllable, I forced the paper in front of my eyes, and in a flash of rainbow colours, I was able to kill my other self. The laws of time allowed me to take over my dead self's place in this world, and also because of the fact that it was allowed to happen. As it was written on the second piece of paper that I had on me, which reversed time. It must have control over time and paradoxes, which made me now the new alive and present of my other dead self. I hid my limp, bleeding other dead self in a cupboard in the upstairs bathroom to rot. To my great relief, I heard my friend call my name from downstairs. My friend who managed to stay alive, and well, my best friend. When I went downstairs, he greeted me excitedly, smiling childishly, and being blissfully unaware of the situation. I pretended that nothing had happened. In a heartbeat, I told him that the house creeped me out and that it would be much better if we left. After that day, we never went near the mansion again. I don't know if anyone saw or heard about anything that happened between us, but I recently heard from another friend that the house had been demolished. I dreaded the probable prospect that my corpse was uncovered in the bathroom cabinet. Martin and his friend Simon were in school one day, talking about what they were going to do for the weekend. They both decided on going to a local abandoned asylum. Lots of teenagers loved to break in and throw parties there, and there was a few sightings of weird stuff, but nothing was taken seriously. Martin's sister conceived her baby in the asylum, and she was heartbroken when the baby died just a few minutes after being born. His sister hated the asylum ever since and put it down to the asylum being haunted, the reason her baby died. That night when Martin and Simon ventured into the asylum, they were pretty spooked out by the surroundings. The teenagers that threw parties would have been in groups of maybe 30 or even 40, so their level of fear would have decreased easily. As they say, strength is in numbers. Simon said to Martin, "What are you looking so freaked out about? We are more than likely to walk into some drunk dude than a ghost man. Don't look so freaked out." Both boys walked into a room that had an old pram just sitting in the middle of it, which looked like something out of a horror movie. Suddenly, both Martin and Simon jumped when they heard a noise. It was someone sobbing and saying something. They listened and could hear someone saying, "My baby, where is my baby?" They walked into the next room and saw a cage with what looked like a baby in it. They ran out of the asylum as fast as they could, and both didn't believe their eyes. What was a baby doing in a cage? But the worst thing was, it didn't look like any ordinary baby. It looked demonic. The eyes were dark, and they didn't even want to dwell on the evil they felt. They felt cold. They felt a darkness come over the whole room when they saw it. That is why they run. That is why they ran. That is why they sprinted out of the asylum. They spoke about it on the way home, after running and running for what felt like miles, but in reality was only minutes. That night, when Martin was in bed, he thought he heard a noise, so he put on the light, and to his shock, he saw a pram sitting in his room. He walked over to it, and suddenly there was a knife from the pram stabbed him. He fell down on the ground, and the cage fell down around him.
Close your eyes. Let your muscles rest. Unclench your jaw. Your eyelids are heavy, too heavy, as if anvils weigh them down. Your feet are like anchors digging into the floor. Your legs are made of lead. You melt into your chair. Now breathe. In, out, deep breaths. You feel yourself drifting. In, out. Now sleep. This is a dream. In the dream, you're free to move. You're in a long, narrow hallway. The light is dim, but you can see enough. There are 2 doors ahead. You choose one, left or right. Make your choice and move to it. You lay your hand on the knob. It's cold. You turn it and walk inside. The door closes behind you. The room is dark. There are no light switches or bulbs. It's dark, and it is meant to be dark. You know it is not empty. You know you are not the only living thing in the room. You can almost hear it. You're afraid, but you have to walk through. The door behind you is no longer there. There is nothing behind you but the wall. The thing in the dark can see you. It watches. You start to walk across the dark room. Your shoe sticks to the floor the farther you move, as if you were walking on a floor coated in molasses. It gets harder to move. The floor is soft now. The thing in the room is watching you struggle. It knows you're afraid. It wants you to be. Your legs are stuck. You can't move. You're sinking. Reach out and see what you can grab. Yes. There. Almost there. Reach. Take it. It feels soft under your fingers. Soft like skin. Hard like bone. As you close your hand around it. Fur brushes your palm. You let go, too scared to hold on, but you're still sinking. It's up to your waist. And as you search for something else to hold on to, you sink down to your stomach, your chest, your neck. As you struggle, your arms stuck in place, you look up and you think you can see it. Yes, it's there, crouched in the corner. You see only its outline. The thing that lived under your bed when you were small. It watches you as you sink. Your mouth goes under. Your nose. You can't breathe. The black fills your eyes. The darkness is all there is. The hallway stretches before you. Long and narrow. Dim. A door stands at the end. Only one door now. The door you didn't take. You refuse to enter. You know that from this room there is no exit. So you turn back to the hallway and run. But it stretches on and on. It's endless. There is no beginning, no end. You stop running. You're not tired. You don't sweat. It's as if you didn't run at all. Behind you, the door is now open. Flashes of artificial blue light pulse from the room beyond. There is no other way. You walk through the threshold and go inside. Your father sleeps on the recliner. Your mother is upstairs reading in her room. You turn your attention to the TV and notice it's one of your favorite shows, the one you watched after school every day when you were younger. But it's an episode you've never seen. You thought you had seen them all. But the characters are behaving strangely, not like their usual selves. They're awkward and stiff, as if they know you're watching them, as if they're performing for your sake. You rush to the TV and turn it off. Behind you, your father snores on the recliner. You turn and watch him. You study his face, his belly, the valleys of his eyes. It looks just like him, but it isn't him. You know with every bone in your body this is not your father, and the woman upstairs is not your mother. This house looks like your childhood home, but it is a copy. A pulse of light through the window, quick flashes. You look out and see construction workers fixing a pothole in the street. A police officer stands by. But they are not doing their jobs. They are only pretending. They know you're there. They turn their heads and watch you. You duck and close the blinds. The snoring thing on the recliner does not move. Somewhere else in the house, something is making noise. Upstairs. The mother. She's walking around, looking for something. She calls your name. Her feet are on the stairs, ready to come down. You run across the house to the kitchen. You look through the glass pane of the back door. It is too dark to see anything outside. The door won't open. You can't get out, but you wouldn't want to anyway because there are things in the brush and in the neighbors' houses. You can't see them, but you know they're there. And they're here, too, in the copy of your house. They are standing behind you with bare feet on the kitchen tile. They wear your parents' faces. They are waiting for you to turn around. You wake up. You are safe in your bed, the middle of the night. It was a dream. It is 9 minutes to 3. The sky is still dark. There are shadows in your room. You know there is nothing in them. If you turn on the lights, nothing will be there. But as long as the darkness is there, you wonder. You doubt yourself. Your feet lay open. They tingle with the expectation of something grabbing them and pulling you away. But there is nothing in the dark. And even as you tell yourself this, you look away from the black. You close your eyes and hope you fall asleep before you can think about it any longer. Some part of you knows the truth. When you look forward, they're at your back. When you are in the light, they are in the dark. When you drive on a lone road in the night and your rear-view mirror feels like eyes watching from the back seat, you know you are not alone. That cold thing in your stomach, that air of anticipation as your feet hang from the edge of the bed, it is them. It is us. Your legs were heavy, now they're light. Your eyelids, nothing weighs them down anymore. We are here. 3, 2, 1.
Wake up.
Every CCTV has blind spots, and if you don't know what blind spots are, they are basically places where the CCTV cameras cannot reach visually. I work in security, and inside the building I work in, there are loads of CCTV cameras, but at the same time, there are loads of blind spots. I was working the night shift a couple of weeks ago, and as I was looking at the CCTV cameras, nothing much was happening. Then, as I got up to go to the bathroom, at the corner of the reception area, there was a ghostly figure just floating on its own. I had no idea what its intentions were, but it was so random. I never believed in such things, but this eerie figure was staring at me. I went back to the CCTV cameras to look at it again, but it was in the blind spot. Then a resident was walking past the reception area with his headphones on and without a care in the world to even notice anything. When this person got into the blind spot of the CCTV, he never appeared back into the lens of the CCTV cameras. I went out to see that he wasn't there anymore. He was pronounced missing a week later. Then, during a weekend night shift, I doubled up with another security guard. I told him what had happened, and he started laughing. He went to another place inside the building where it was a blind spot for the CCTV cameras. He started shouting and mocking the ghosts. Then he went silent, and the silence was evading. My friend wasn't at that spot anymore, apart from a silhouette of a ghostly aura. And it seems like these ghosts know all of the blind spots for the CCTV cameras. They can get away with things now. Footages and CCTV cameras have really been a pain in the backside for them. The managers just assumed that my coworker just walked off the job. There is no proof or anything sinister happening to him. I stay away from the blind spots now, because the ghosts do their best to stay in those places that the CCTV cameras cannot reach. If you are in a CCTV blind spot, then these ghostly creatures can do anything to you, and nobody will believe a thing because of no footage evidence.